Whether you're passionate about the global economy or simply curious to understand the dynamics of trade relations between major powers, you're probably already aware of the escalating tensions between China and the United States. Technological restrictions, economic sanctions, and the blocking of certain Chinese companies. In response, China is striking where it hurts, limiting exports of strategic materials or diversifying its trade partnerships. But one question arises: can China really survive without the United States? When you consider how interconnected their economies are, the answer is not so simple. In this video, I will show you why the question is not as straightforward as it appears. Over the last few decades, China has built strong trade ties with the United States, becoming an essential partner. The United States imported millions of Chinese products, while China accumulated billions of dollars in American investments. However, from 2018, the situation began to change. Under the presidency of Donald Trump, a trade war broke out, marked by massive tariff hikes on Chinese goods. The aim behind these measures was to push Beijing to revise its trade practices, particularly those related to intellectual property and government influence over businesses. China, for its part, responded by imposing tariffs on American products. But beyond these trade measures, Beijing sought to rethink its economic model to reduce its dependence on the West. For over a decade, China has invested heavily in its own industries and technologies, steering its economy towards self-sufficiency. Instead of relying on exports to the United States, it decided to boost its domestic consumption and encourage national investments. Today, 40% of China's GDP comes from investment, a rate much higher than that of other major global economies. This shift has allowed China to take strategic positions in several technological sectors, such as electric vehicles. For example, BYD has surpassed Tesla to become the global leader in electric cars. TikTok, another striking example, has captured worldwide attention, becoming one of the most influential and dynamic social platforms. However, this shift has not been without difficulties. China faces an aging population, a real estate crisis, and relatively low domestic consumption compared to major economies. Indeed, China does not spend as much as Europe or the United States. The Chinese tend to save, as the social security system is largely insufficient. Unemployment benefits, pensions, or healthcare do not meet all citizens' expectations. As a result, many prefer to limit their spending, which explains the weak domestic consumption that, although improving, has yet to replace the previous growth drivers based on exports. China has also implemented a dual circulation strategy, which aims to strengthen internal consumption while diversifying its commercial partnerships. The idea is to integrate more countries from the global south into its supply chains, rather than relying solely on European or American markets. Thus, economic relations with Asia, Africa, and Latin America have intensified, and China has begun to distance itself from its dependence on the United States. While this strategy seems promising, it is not without challenges. By diversifying its exports, China has indeed reduced its exposure to an unstable U.S. market, but it has also had to face geopolitical barriers and economic uncertainties. Projects such as the new Silk Road have opened new horizons, but the Chinese economy remains vulnerable to certain risks, notably instability in its domestic markets and rising tensions with other powers like India or Europe. In the end, China has managed to position itself as an independent global economic player, but can it really do without the United States entirely? While China has reduced its dependence on the West, economic ties with the US and other major powers remain crucial. However, China has proven that it can withstand external pressures and is ready to evolve to become a global economic leader, even outside the traditional US-dominated framework. If you find this analysis fascinating and want to learn more about global economic transformations, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with your friends so you don't miss out on the upcoming videos.